Isn't that a beautiful sound? Water rippling through a creek has relaxed people for thousands of years. Hi, I'm Ruth Woods, and today we're going to show you how to create a beautiful water garden in your backyard, from planning to plumbing. We'll also talk about the many water plants and wildlife that can inhabit your backyard paradise. First, we'll discuss the 3 different types of pond construction methods: concrete, molded plastic, and vinyl liners. We'll show you some examples of each one, and we'll show you how we created this pond in our backyard.
Concrete ponds fit very well into a formal garden setting. They are not recommended for the average do-it-yourselfer or in heavy frost areas.
No matter how small your yard is, you still have room for a water garden. This pond uses just 4 square feet of yard space, but still provides the owner with hours of enjoyment. Water gardens can also be quite inexpensive. This water garden costs less than $75, including the plants, fish, and recirculating pump. We cut a 50-gallon plastic drum in half and buried it. There is a 170-gallon-per-hour submerged pump which forces the water through a hole in this rock. We drilled a hole in an ordinary rock to get the bubbling brook sound that can be heard all over the yard. Even a pond this small has room for several large goldfish and 2 or 3 different water plants.
Preformed plastic or vinyl pools are available in many sizes and shapes. These preformed liners are easy to install. Some forms have shelves around the edges for shallow water plants. Without these shelves, concrete blocks or bricks must be used to bring the water plants up to the proper levels. These preformed pond liners are small enough to be easy to maintain. Fountains and waterfalls are easy to incorporate into these pond settings. Accessories such as pumps, fountain heads, and underwater lighting are available at larger hardware, home building centers, and nurseries in your area. Parts are also available from several mail-order sources. You may wish to consider a small water garden starter kit for your first pond.
The flexible liner is the most popular material for water gardens. They are the easiest to install, and if you run into a large rock or root, the flexible liner is easier to adjust than the preformed liner. This 16-foot by 24-foot pond was created by placing a one-piece vinyl pond liner inside the excavation, filling it with water and edging it with rocks. Next, we will discuss some considerations when choosing a site for your water garden.
Healthy ponds need 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day. Even though a pond in this shaded area would look nice, try to find a location in your yard that receives direct sunlight.
Now that you have picked a location, it's time to decide on the size of your water garden. Your dealer can tell you what size liner you will need depending on the length, width, and the depth of the pond. You will need enough liner to overlap the edges for your pond's border. It is very important to check local building codes that regulate ponds and pools. You will also need to contact the local utility companies before you start digging. They will gladly come to your site and identify any underground hazards. Now, let's show the step-by-step installation process for this water garden.
It's easy to visualize your pond without disturbing your existing landscaping. Just lay out a rope and see how it looks. This will help you decide what size pond to build. After you pick the location, remove any loose material. This will help to determine if the area is level, and it creates a smooth area to mark the pond perimeter prior to digging. This pond was installed over an existing garden. The owners had a lot of time invested in the soil, so the topsoil was moved to another area in the yard. You may want to use garden hoses for the final planning and measuring. They are easier to move than rope in large sections, and most people have plenty of hoses laying around. You will need to measure the length and width of the pond very carefully. Remember, the vinyl liners are for a specific sized pond. Both the length, width, and depth determine the liner size that is needed. A mistake in measuring can leave you with too little liner left over for the backfilling. When you are sure of the dimensions, mark the hose lines with baking flour. Be generous and plan on using at least 5 pounds of flour for a large pond. Flour is preferred over spray paint. It's cheaper and better for the environment. It won't get covered up as easily as spray paint, and it can be easily erased if changes are needed. After you have marked the perimeter with flour, the hose can be removed, leaving you with bright lines to work with. Now the fun begins. We used a backhoe to dig out most of this pond, but old-fashioned shovels work just fine. This pond, 16 by 24 feet with a depth of 2 feet, is about 4,000 gallons. The water to fill the pond will weigh more than 32,000 pounds, and dirt is heavier than water. This is a very good reason to rent a backhoe for a half or full day. It will only cost between $100 and $200, and it is money well spent. If you finish early, you can always use the backhoe to remove unwanted material from your yard. If the machinery worries you, don't take any chances, call a professional. While the backhoe can be used to dig the shelves and edges, we recommend old-fashioned shoveling for precision. After the pond has been roughed in, all rocks and root tips must be removed from the shelves and bottom. This will prevent damage to the liner. Water is not the only thing that will be exerting a force on the liner. For large ponds, it is occasionally necessary to get into the pond and tend to plants and fish. Be sure to cut the roots well below the surface level. Water will find its own level. It is important to keep this in mind during excavation. We nailed two 2x4s together so we could prop them across the entire width of the pond. A string level was used for the long side of the pond. Whether you are using a backhoe or shovels, you may find a pick helpful in rocky areas. This excavation involved many layered rocks and dry clay. Shovels are not well suited for either. Prior to installing the liner, take a few minutes to remove all small rocks and debris from the bottom and shelf areas. We can't emphasize this too much. Smooth out the shelf areas by hand. Even though we will use sand and weed barrier to protect the liner, it is a lot easier to start with a clean surface. You may find small roots or rocks that were previously missed. It is important not to leave anything that could puncture the liner. The shelf areas will be full of heavy plant containers. Trim any protruding roots below the soil line and remove any small rocks uncovered in the process. Now that the shelves and bottom have been cleared of debris, let's take a look at the final preparation before we lay out the liner. One of the sides of this pond was unusually full of sharp rocks. When we dug out one rock, two more appeared. Even sharp rocks on the vertical sides of the pond must be removed or padded. It was apparent that we were going to have to deal with this problem in a different manner. This material is called weed barrier. It is available from lawn and garden centers, is relatively inexpensive, and provides additional protection against punctures. This is 3 tons of sand. We will be using sand to protect the bottom of the pond and shelf areas. It is also useful to hold the weed barrier in place while installing the pond liner. The sand is first placed on the shelf areas. This will help level the shelf and protect the liner from punctures caused by plant containers or by walking on the liner. Be generous, but plan for the bottom of the shelf to be about 6 to 12 inches below the surface of the pond. Then we smooth out the sand. This is a good opportunity to adjust the depths of the shelves. You can have several different shelf depths. They should be relatively level so the shelf plants will be stable. Next, we fill the sides of the bottom with sand and smooth it. This creates a nice smooth area for the weed barrier. The weed barrier comes in long rolls from 2 to 4 feet wide. Depending on the depth of the pond, the weed barrier can be placed horizontally or vertically against the pond walls. Care must be taken to avoid disturbing the sand that is under the barrier. Just start at one side and work to the end. It's just like spreading a sheet on the ground. The wider the weed barrier, the easier it is to cover both the top edge of the pond all the way down to the bottom. When the end of the roll is reached, just overlap with a new roll and continue all the way around the pond. After the barrier is in place, you guessed it, more sand. In this case, the sand is used to weight down the weed barrier and prevent it from moving when the heavy liner is installed. Small adjustments may be made to the shelf heights at this point. No more than 1 to 2 inches of sand is recommended because it will be pulled off of the shelf during the installation of the heavy liner. Smooth out the sand with your hands. If there are different shelf heights, you will have shelf areas that are not level. That's okay. It's easier to have sloping areas than to dig vertical walls between shelves of different heights. This also makes for smoother liner installation. This is an example of installing the weed barrier vertically. Just overlap the sides and use sand to hold it in place. Keeping the sand moist will prevent it from falling off the shelves. After the weed barrier has been placed and secured, the next step is covering the bottom of the pond with sand. Spread the sand on top of the weed barrier on the bottom of the pond. A minimum of 1 inch of sand is needed to prevent punctures. We used about 3 inches of sand in this pond for extra protection. Now it's time to install the liner. The liner for a pond this large can weigh well over 100 pounds. While it can be maneuvered by one person, 1 or 2 helpers can speed the process along more quickly. Care must be taken not to disturb the debris under the sand. Start by overlapping the liner at one end of the pond and unfold it to the other end. Remember to leave some extra liner at the edges for backfilling. This will help to hide the liner by raising the water level to the bottom of the border rocks. Warming the liner in the sun makes it much easier to work with. It only takes a few minutes to complete this step. Now is a good time to talk about hazards and legal issues. Be sure to check with local utility and telephone companies before you start digging. Remember, they will gladly come to the site and inform you of any underground hazards. Many communities regulate the size and depth of ponds. These regulations are similar to swimming pools. Some cities require the area to be completely fenced for pools that exceed a certain size or depth. Check with your local government for these restrictions. No matter what the local restrictions are, keep safety in mind. Children and pets will be attracted to the water, plants, and fish. After the liner is in place, the wrinkles need to be smoothed. There will be excess liner in areas where the sides or shelves curve. That is expected. Just fold the excess liner on top of itself and continue smoothing. It is helpful to have one person on the inside of the pond and one person outside of the pond to finish the liner adjustments. Continue around the pond until as many wrinkles as possible have been smoothed. Now it's time to start filling the pond. This 4,000-gallon pond took about 8 hours to fill. This gives you plenty of time to make small adjustments in the liner. The weight of the water will keep your adjustments in place. When adjusting the sides of the liner, remember the sand that may be laying on top of the weed barrier. This sand can be easily disturbed, which will cause it to fall down behind the liner. It's very tempting to run to the pet shop and buy goldfish at this point. Unless you are using untreated well water, you should resist this temptation. You can see that the end of this pond is several inches higher than the sides. This is another area that the sand may be used. Just lift up the liner and shovel in sand or soil to build up the sides. You may wish to remove soil from under the liner at the high point instead. When adding material to raise the sides, care must be taken that the material doesn't fall down the sides of the liner. Now let's talk about edging your pond. We chose Arkansas flat rock for our border. We purchased them a trunkload at a time because we wanted to hand select each rock. We recommend that you purchase the rocks and have them delivered. Consult your water garden dealer about quarries. Go to several quarries to see what is available. Consistency in diameter and thickness is important. This is the backfilling that we mentioned earlier. Simply shovel soil or sand under the liner after the first layer of rocks have been laid. This allows the water to touch the bottom of the rocks, which hides the liner. The second layer of border rocks will hide the excess exposed liner completely. This area may be mulched and planted with appropriate plants, or you may allow the lawn to come up to the edge of the rocks. After backfilling, place the second layer of border rocks slightly back from the edge of the pond, completely hiding the liner. This area is ready for the second layer of rocks. By curving the excess liner toward the water, you can create a seal 3 or 4 inches above the level of the pond, which prevents leaking. Here we have added the second layer of rocks and mulched the area. The plants quickly fill in and hide any tiny bits of liner that may show between the cracks in the rocks. This pond was planned to be narrow at one end, which provides excess liner that may be used for a waterfall. If your pond is another shape, you can purchase a small liner for a waterfall. Trim the liner with a scissor, being careful to allow enough excess for your turned over edge. A waterfall can be created with the soil that was removed during excavation. The piece of leftover liner will determine the size of your waterfall. Water will be pumped from the pond to a small pool at the top of the waterfall. One side of the pool is lower, which allows water onto the falls. A channel is then dug and the liner is carefully fitted into the pool and channel. Large flat rocks are then added to the bed of the falls, and smaller rocks help build up the sides. It will take several attempts to position the flat rocks so that the water is evenly distributed. If you are using PVC to plumb the waterfall, you will need to measure the depth of the pond. This will help determine where to cut the PVC pipe. It is important to keep the pump off the bottom of the pond. This will help keep the pump clear of debris. This half-size milk crate provides adequate clearance for the pump. The pump is secured to the crate with wire and is now ready for installation. PVC pipe is laid from the waterfall back down to the water, and the two are ready to be joined. The pump assembly is carefully placed in the pond and the connections are joined. Be sure not to get any pipe joining chemicals into the water. The pipe that runs to the waterfall is buried in a small trench and covered with soil, mulch, or rocks. After the pipe is connected, the pump is ready to be turned on and the waterfall fine-tuned.
No water garden would be complete without plants. There are many types of water plants that can be used in a pond. Bog plants are placed in shallow areas or on ledges. Water lilies are placed on the bottom of the pond. And there are free-floating plants such as water hyacinth and water lettuce. Let's take a look at a few of the plants in this pond.
Bog plants will be placed on the shelves. Most succeed with 2 to 12 inches of water over the crown. To maintain proper balance in your pond, dead leaves and stems should be removed from your plants. Thalia is a tall, broad-leafed plant with purple spiked flowers held well above its foliage. It will reach 3 to 4 feet in height. Sagittaria is an arrow-leafed plant which produces small white flowers. It blooms from early spring through fall. Water hyacinth is one of several floating plants which need no soil. Its thick root mass provides good cover for small fish. The water hyacinth produces beautiful lavender spiked flowers. Dwarf variegated sweet flag has striking grass-like foliage. Horsetail has jointed stem structure and is also known as scouring rush. This is Egyptian paper reed. When a stem is bent back into the water, its tip will produce a new plant. Miniature horsetail is similar to the large variety, but it only grows to 8 inches tall. Many of the water plants are easy to propagate. Just plant the side shoots in a pot of their own using regular garden soil. The plants in smaller pots will need to be set on a flat stone to raise them to the proper height. Parrot's feather has beautiful green foliage that trails along the water's surface. It is good for fish spawning. The focal point of any water garden is the water lily. There are both tropical and hardy varieties. Colors range from deep reds through yellow to pure white. Blossoms float on the water's surface and require 5 to 6 hours of direct sunlight per day to thrive. They bloom all summer long and require still water that is 6 to 18 inches deep. Tropical water lilies require special winter care, but they give more blooms and have more fragrance than the hardy varieties. Here are some of the many beautiful varieties of water lilies that are available for your pond. The most stunning accent plant you can have in your pond is a lotus. Flowers are held from 1 to 7 feet above the water surface and are available in white, pink, yellow, or rose. Goldfish and koi will make your pond even more enjoyable. They are an easy care pet and you will get much enjoyment feeding them. They are very hardy and can live outdoors all year round. Soon, other forms of wildlife will be attracted to your pond. Koi come in many color combinations and can be expected to live up to 80 years. They can become so tame they will eat right out of your hand. Koi and goldfish varieties can be purchased from many pet shops and water garden suppliers. The koi increase in price by size and the goldfish are priced by their variety and coloring. It is important to purchase fish from reputable dealers. New fish should be quarantined for 2 weeks before they are introduced to a pond with existing fish. This will ensure that any existing disease will not be transmitted to your healthy fish. It is important not to overcrowd your pond with fish. A general rule is not to exceed 1 inch of goldfish or 1/2 inch of koi for every 3 to 5 gallons of water in the pond. The tanks in which retailers keep their fish have special biofilters and oxygenators that greatly increase the number of fish that can safely be kept in each tank. The biofilters use porous rock combined with special bacteria and vegetation to consume waste and debris that would otherwise foul the water. The fish in your water garden help the plants to thrive, and in turn the plants add oxygen and keep algae growth to a minimum. Each is necessary for the well-being of the pond. Maintaining a proper balance of fish and plants will make your water garden practically carefree, creating an enchanting world complete with birds, butterflies, and dragonflies.
In a month or two, nature will fill in the new plantings and your pond will look beautiful. After thorough planning and a few weekends of hard work, you can be enjoying your own backyard water garden. I'm Ruth Woods, and thank you for watching, and happy water gardening.